Hey guys, where have you been? Today, welcome to the channel, I'm Ben Chase. Today we're going to talk about my first ever job at Walt Disney World. Now, if you can recognize where I am, it kind of gives you a hint into what it was. But I want to just tell you the story of how I got my first job at Walt Disney World and what it was like to go through that experience. And so let's just dive into it. If you can guess where I'm at right now, just let me know in the comments below. So I started with Walt Disney in June of 2008. June 10th, 2008 was my hire date at the time. And how it works is when I was here, when I first started at Disney, you would go to casting, which is their employment HR area, and you would just go in and ask for a job. And when I went in, I was 19 at the time, and they were like, yeah, just wait here and we'll talk to you in 15-20 minutes. And I said, okay, that's fine. So I go into a room by myself with an older lady who worked in HR, and she goes, well, what are you interested in? And I said, I don't know. What do you guys have to offer? And she goes, well, we're hiring in attractions. I said, cool, so like I could work roller coasters? She's like, yeah, you can work roller coasters, work the parades, and you know, have fun with the guests. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. I'm down for this. She goes, well, have you been to the parks before? I said, of course I've been to the parks. My mom, dad, aunt, and uncle all worked at Walt Disney World. And she goes, oh, so you should know what you're doing. And I said, yeah. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm definitely know the parks. She just said, well, let's look at attractions. What park would you want to work at? And I said, well, if I was to work anywhere, I'd probably want to work at Magic Kingdom because, you know, it's the main one. And she was like, yeah, that's great, but let's look at Magic Kingdom. So we pulled up Magic Kingdom's map, and I don't know if you're familiar, there's lands, all the lands. You have Frontierland, Adventureland, Liberty Square, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, Main Street USA, I guess, is technically a land. And she was like, well, what would you want to do? She said, you know what I would see you good at? I said, what? You could be a great Jungle Cruise skipper. I said, Jungle Cruise skipper, why? She goes, I could just tell your personality, you're very upbeat. And I said, yeah, that's true. Well, how does that work? And she goes, well, that means you'd have to be in Adventureland, which is right over, well, the walkway's like right here. We'll put you in Adventureland. And I said, well, is it automatic that I get Jungle Cruise? And she goes, no, well, they'll put you where they need staffing. And I said, okay, well, what other rides are there? Well, she said, oh, well, you know, it's attached to Liberty Square as well, so you have Hall of Presidents, Haunted Mansion, the Liberty Bell, which is the boat, which right now is not there at the moment, the Tiki Room, Aladdin, and Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Treehouse. I said, oh, well, that's a lot of rides. That's a lot of rides. And she goes, well, what other areas would you be interested in? And I said, well, it'd be cool to work at a roller coaster, I think. So she said, well, what about Frontierland? They have Splash Mountain and Thunder Mountain. I said, oh, that's cool. Yeah, let's look at that. And I said, well, what other rides are there? And she goes, well, there's also Tom Sawyer Island and Country Bear Jamboree. They're together as one. So there's really just 3 attractions in Frontierland. And I said, wait, so you're telling me I have a 2 out of 3 chance to work at a roller coaster? At 19, obviously, like, I was stoked. And she goes, yeah, that's great. And she goes, but I really think you'd be a great Jungle Cruise skipper. I said, well, I would love to do that, or Pirates of the Caribbean, or maybe Haunted Mansion, but there's 8 or 9 attractions in Adventureland Liberty Square. I have not even a 50% chance of getting one of those. And she goes, well, if you're gonna do all the math and logic, then yeah, you're right. So you're thinking Frontierland. I said, yeah, let's do Frontierland. And I was stoked. So I left that day with a job, which is crazy. It was right before Disney had, in 2008, they had this hiring freeze. And I got hired maybe 2 months before this freeze. And the freeze was for months. But, so, that day, I got hired, like I said. And, oh, here comes the Liberty Bell. The very next week, I started doing traditions, which is kind of like what they do their onboarding, where they, you know, train you on the Disney history and what it takes to be a cast member here at Walt Disney World. And I was stoked, and they're like, all right, you're gonna start next week. I said, okay, let's go. And I got my paperwork, and like I said earlier, I had a 2 out of 3 chance of getting either a roller coaster with Thunder Mountain or Splash Mountain, which is one of my childhood favorite rides. And I got stuck with Tom Sawyer Island and Country Bear Jamboree, which is right over here. Out of all 2 out of 3 chance. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna take this on, let's do it. But I had never even been to Tom Sawyer Island. And I think I saw Country Bear Jamboree when I was like 5. So I started, and if you're unfamiliar with Tom Sawyer Island, I'm pacing, I'm sorry. It's just an island where you can walk around and there's sports and stuff like that, and caves. And the role basically is you drive this diesel power engine, like raft, across and just take people back and forth for hours in the rain and the sun. Oh, but don't get me wrong, I loved my time there. And the Country Bear Jamboree, when I worked there, I can't even learn how to point right now. There you go. It was before they shortened the show. So it was like a 15-minute show when I started, and I swear I've seen that show over 2,000 or 3,000 times. But that's it for another day. I just want to tell you how I got my first job at Walt Disney World, and where it ended up being Tom Sawyer. The rafts, I'll put a video of, I guess, how the rafts work in the future video, but I wanted to keep this video under 8 minutes, and it's been about 7-ish minutes now. So with that, I just want to thank you for joining me on this little short adventure and my first YouTube video on this channel. Feel free to subscribe, and always remember, chase your happiness, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.